I see sparks fly whenever you smile. That was my rendition of Taylor Swift, Sparks Fly, but let's get right into it today. Okay, that's the song I've been listening to. If you're wondering what I've been listening to, I'm also working on getting my Spotify playlists up for everybody. That's something I like doing, and so you might get in on that. But welcome, guys. Today, talking about some mind-blowing stuff. Some stuff that, one thing I tell you all the time, right, is that when you're in this upward growth spiral, the beauty of it is you don't look at the negative, you look at the positive. But you also look at the unknown positive, which means I don't just wake up and think, oh, since I'm a life coach and I'm good at everyday life, I know exactly what's going to happen today and I'm going to crush it, you know? Sometimes I wake up and I think, I don't know what's going to happen today, but I can guarantee that something good's going to happen because I'm doing all this good stuff. And so it's like a surprise gift when something really good or really cool happens. And so today, I had this really cool thought just last night. And so today I thought I would give you some content around that in all my segments today. It just fits perfectly with everything I'm talking about. It's something that I do uniquely, but I just realized the importance of it and connected some dots last night. And so now I'm really excited to bring it to you. So I'm just going to double check Facebook to make sure it's actually working. It is. That's awesome. And this is going to be really valuable for you guys. Okay, so here's what it is, right? Here's the secret. Is the parable for today is what if life was like building a never-ending skyscraper, all right? And I think buildings are a great example, a great metaphor for what I'm about to talk about all day today. And so what if we were, as humanity, constantly building a skyscraper, right? Now, I know that sounds like some Tower of Babel stuff, like building the tower to the heavens or, whatever, but it has nothing to do with that. It's just, this is how I actually see humanity working, and now I've just had this revelation and I really am getting somewhere. Like, I'm getting somewhere deep, and it's kind of crazy, but I'm going to take you there with me today. So here is why I want to tell you about building, let's say, architecture in general. Maybe it's not building a skyscraper. Maybe life is just like architecture itself. Okay, and here's what I want you to tell you, is that human knowledge builds on itself. That's the point of this parable, right? Consider the person who made the first hut, right? They didn't have anything to go by, they just made it. And then later they developed a house made out of clay or whatever, and then they made a house out of brick, and now they make skyscrapers, right? But the point is, okay, that now modern techniques for building homes are much more advanced than they used to be, right? In architecture, in everything, but especially in house building, right? I'm sitting here, I'm in air conditioning, heat, cooling, whatever I need. I have these electric lights to give me extra brightness on my face, all this stuff, my home is just amazing. And what's really cool is that there was a company that built the home I live in right now for me called KB Homes. They're just a big national home builder. And so they build homes. And what's really fascinating is how simple the process was and how little oversight it needed. Now, when you go with the big home builder, right, there is a superintendent. But basically all that superintendent does is they just call a bunch of subcontractors to come do their job. So the superintendent essentially says, here's the house you're going to buy, right? We're a national home builder, so everything is already designed for you. You have your choice of 5 models. There's the Jordan, the Hickory, the Norman, the Gaston, right? You choose which fancily named model you want. So we chose our model, which I believe was the Hickory, right? And we chose an extra separate, we took away one bedroom to make another bedroom bigger, right? That's what we did. So first of all, this national home builder, right, hands the superintendent a house, and the superintendent doesn't have to think about any dimensions or anything. And then the factory that the national home builder has already has all the pieces, and they actually ship all the pieces of the house on trucks out to the site, and it's already there, and they just have to be assembled. And then the superintendent just calls his list of subcontractors who all know how to do their job, and they all just come in one by one and do the inside parts and do the parts, right? They just do the roof, and then they do the painting, and then they do the air conditioning and whatever, right? And the beauty of all of this is that nowhere in any of that creation of my individual house did anybody really need to think too hard about it, because it had already been done, right? For the first house ever built, I guarantee you they had to think so hard and do so much. But for this, right, it had already been done. But you know what's really beautiful about that is since the template for the basic house was already there, all my wife and I got to spend time doing is enhancing the house. We got to sit down and have a 3-hour conversation. And I mean, honestly, for me, it was kind of painful at the time. But we got to decide on what doorknobs we wanted. We got to decide on what each room would be used for. We got to decide if we wanted extra windows. We got to think of all these bonuses, okay? And then here's the cool thing. somebody may come by our house or look at our house and take inspiration from that. And then they may go build an even better house, or they may say, well, your house is great, guys. When I visited, you gave me these ideas, but I also chose to add these windows here and these lamps here and improve this. And so my point with this little simple parable metaphor thing is that being human allows you to build on the past, okay, guys? And we're about to get somewhere really deep here, but I need you to understand that, is that being human means you can build on the past. And so KB Homes, right, doesn't have to create a brand new house or have some super expert at housing, right? My superintendent was just a guy who'd been a superintendent for a year. He grew up in construction, but then he went to be a police officer, came back to being a superintendent for a couple of years, and then boom, he helped build my house, right? But it's not like he was a genius who was going to run his own company and build all these houses all the way on his own, right? He was just kind of doing his job. And so there was beauty in that because it was so much easier since there was already a pattern in place. But if you notice, I also tried to explain that now, right, not only did I get to improve on my house, right, I didn't have to worry about how to install my kitchen. I didn't have to worry about how to, whether my garage was going to be the right dimensions. I already knew that they would take care of that. So I got to worry about what my doorknobs were like and what my garage looked like and what floor plan I wanted and, what I wanted to do with the house and how I wanted to improve my life inside the house. And so the beauty is, since the base was already taken care of, I got to improve something in a way never done before, right? Unique to me. And then, like I said, a house guest could come to my house, right? And they could be looking for houses, and they could look at my house and get all these ideas. And then when they go get their house, they might even improve on my house. And so what you see is generation after generation, people are improving on the past, okay? And while I like to think about it as housing, because just think about that, right? I just constantly look around this house and I'm like, I paid a ton of money, right, to get this house, but I just sent some money to some people, and now I have this place where the lights work and the duct work works and the air conditioning works and the gas line works and the electricity works and it shelters me and the porch is safe and it's just amazing, right? Living in a house is amazing. This is something you're taking for granted, okay? That you get to live. If you live in a house with air conditioning or electricity, how crazy is that? It's so cool, right? It's so cool. It's unbelievably cool, right? And so I think about this stuff all the time. And so that's one thing you can work on in your life is how to think about this stuff. But what's really cool is the way to improve. And so why is this so important? Okay, why you're like, Woody, great. I'm glad that, humans can improve on things, but why is this so important? Well, I've been figuring out why everyone is underachieving so much. If you've been listening to me, if you've been following me, you know that I'm really passionate that people use less than 1% of their potential. They're using almost nothing. They seem to be fighting themselves. They're unhappy for no reason, right? They're upset for no reason. They're stressed for no reason. They're anxious for no reason. People seem to be creating all this negativity. And for the life of me, it has been so disorienting and hard, even though I know that people are so much capable of more, including myself. It's been so disorienting trying to figure out how, what's going on to mess us all up so much. But I'm kind of figuring it out, right? And so I'm about to take you on this weird journey that shows you the answer. And so today for a little bit of parable, a little bit of just reading time, I'm going to read you just a little bit of the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And this is one of those books, right? Tim is this guy. If you don't know him, he has a podcast. He's one of these life people. He literally, he started some supplement company and worked 100 hours a week at his supplement company and built it up to where he was making $70,000 a month, right? Tons of money. And then he realized he hated working 100 hours a week. And so then eventually he figured out how to go on a trip, and he had this life-changing experience. And then he actually invented a 4-hour work week where all these automated processes ran his company, and he just did his own thing, and he would go live in Brazil and take tango lessons for a month and whatever, right? He's this crazy adventurous dude. But there's this page in his book that is something that seems kind of off-putting or stressful or kind of creates some dissonance in you. That's really cool, and I believed but still had dissonance about, but now I'm finally understanding why it's there. And so I'm going to read this to you real quick. Okay, Tim Ferriss says, doing the unrealistic is easier than doing the realistic. Okay? From contacting billionaires to rubbing elbows with celebrities, the second group of students did both, blah, blah, blah. That's a backstory we don't need to care about. It's as easy as believing it can be done. Okay, listen to this. It's lonely at the top. 99% of people in the world are convinced they are incapable of achieving great things, so they aim for mediocre. The level of competition is thus fiercest for realistic goals, paradoxically making them the most time and energy consuming. It is easier to raise $1 million than it is $100,000. It is easier to pick up one perfect 10 in the bar than 5 eights. Okay, great. Like, he adds in these things about, like, picking up women sometimes in here, and I'm like, great, I don't care about that. If you are insecure, guess what? The rest of the world is too. Do not overestimate the competition and underestimate yourself. You are better than you think. Unreasonable and unrealistic goals are easier to achieve for yet another reason. Having an unusually large goal is an adrenaline infusion that provides the endurance to overcome the inevitable trials and tribulations that go along with any goal. Realistic goals restricted to the average ambition level, are uninspiring and will only fuel you through the first or second problem, at which point you throw in the towel. If the potential payoff is mediocre or average, so is your effort. I'll run through walls to get a catamaran trip through the Greek islands, but I might not change my brand of cereal for a weekend trip through Columbus, Ohio. If I chose the latter because it is realistic, I won't have the enthusiasm to jump even the smallest hurdle to accomplish it. With beautiful, crystal clear Greek waters and delicious wine on the brain, I'm prepared to do battle for a dream that is worth dreaming. Even though their difficulty of achievement on a scale of 1 to 10 appears to be a 10 and a 2 respectively, Columbus is more likely to fall through. The fishing is best where the fewest go, and the collective insecurity of the world makes it easy for people to hit home runs while everyone else is aiming for base hits. There's just less competition for bigger goals. Doing big things begins with asking for them properly. And then he teaches you how to ask for big things. Okay? And so that's a pretty cool passage, right? It might just give you a glimmer of like, whoa, okay, so I might be able to do bigger things and I may be more motivated for a bigger thing. But if you guys know me, you know I'm a real thinker. And for me, everything has to make sense, like, logically in place from, like, this natural laws of physics outcome. And so I appreciate, all these books that give you tips and advice and tricks like, hey, shoot for something bigger, right? Because then you'll be more motivated and then you'll go through with it, okay? Like, that's helpful. But, obviously, there are millions of people reading that book and still not, doing the big things. And so it's good advice, but to me it's incomplete. And I just found the other half of this that makes this so true, right? And so I've been thinking, and this is where you can just see my brain working here, but I've been thinking hard, like, why is this so true? Why is it really true? I really believe this, but why have I not acted on it? Why has it been hard for me? Why has it been a challenge? And what I realized is this, guys, this is so amazingly cool, is that because as humans, we can build on things, right? We can build on things. The next generation, logically, always will have more potential than the previous generation, okay? And so, thus, the only logical goal to have as a human being is a bigger goal or a more powerful goal or whatever your type of goal is that's more than what anyone before you has done, okay? And this is really important, right? What I try to do now is I don't just read all these books and try to trick my brain 1,000 different ways with little tripwires to do the things that make me productive, right? That's kind of what the previous generation of coaching people have done, and I really, they've helped me so much. But now I see myself as the next generation where I have to create this single logical outlook on life that just naturally makes it all flow. And it keeps coming back to this one thing, that if you're not shooting for something huge, right, then you're actually lying to yourself and you're going against the laws of physics. Here's what I mean. Let's say I'm really passionate about coaching. And so I want to have a coaching business. And then let's say I'm like, well, I'm good, but I don't know if I'll ever be as good as Tony Robbins, right? So I'm going to try and make a coaching business, but not as big as he makes it. Well, here's the thing, right? Yeah, Tim Ferriss says, okay, maybe if I just have a small goal, maybe I'll go for it, maybe I'll give up, whatever. Or maybe if I go for a big goal, like be as big as Tony Robbins and be like him, then I'll be more motivated because then I can take catamaran trips through the Greek Isles. But frankly, I don't care about catamaran trips through the Greek Isles. I want to feel good and fulfilled inside myself. That's my only goal ever, is to feel happy and fulfilled and peaceful inside myself, right? I don't want any kind of physical rewards. But here's the thing. I not only have all of my own insights, but I already have all the lessons of a life coach like Tony Robbins, and I can learn all of his lessons very quickly. He had to spend years and years developing all his programs, and I can consume them in a month, right? I've been to his live program. I've taken his audio tapes. I've watched his YouTube videos. So I already know all of Tony Robbins' stuff, right? I mean, not everything, but I know a lot of it. And so here's what's going on in my actual logical mind, is my mind is saying, hey, you're good at this too. This is your thing. And sure, this guy may have had big-time physical results and he's a lot older, but the truth is, Woody, you have all of his stuff to learn from and then build upon, right? So if Tony Robbins, is the KB Homes who's created this big company that makes these homes, I don't want to just go and be like, I also want to be a home builder. I'll be a small home builder, and I'll try to be as good as KB Homes. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, what is KB Homes doing? How do they do their blueprints? How do they do everything? I'm going to take every single thing they do and use that as a baseline. I've learned all their lessons from them easily, and now I'm just going to spend all my time improving on it, right? Isn't that pretty cool? And so the reason we all get messed up inside is because we are literally out of alignment with reality and the laws of physics again. Because based on the laws of physics and the laws of being human, right? Each further generation has more ability and more technology than the previous generation, all right? And so that means by law of physics, you are capable of more than the people who came before you. And that's not an ego thing for you or an ego thing for them, because guess what? People are going to come after you who are going to do more than you, right? If my children grew up and wanted to do the same thing I did, they'd be able to do way more than I do, because it continues on and on. And so all you want on the inside is to feel good inside, because you're doing that good stuff for yourself. You're feeling like you're using your full potential. But the truth is that in order to use your full potential, because of the nature of human transfer of knowledge and wisdom, right, you actually have to have at least one goal that's bigger than anything anyone else has ever thought of before. And most people don't have this, which is why they're unhappy. And so guys, that was just a cool revelation for me. I hope the house building thing really gave you an example. Is like, if you were going to go be a home builder, you wouldn't just start from scratch. You just have everything that KB Homes and all these big companies ever did, but then you'd think about how to be better, how to use even your unique wisdom to do even more. Isn't that pretty freaking cool? I think it's pretty cool. And so again, it's not just about going for big goals to be rich, or going for big goals because big things make you happy, or going for big goals so you can feel good about yourself, right? The reason you go for big goals is because the laws of physics and the way the world operates and the laws of being human and human physics, the one thing unique to humans, right, is our ability to store language, to store abstract thoughts, to store progress. And because of that, it is required of us, in order to be in alignment with our own internal understanding of the world that we instinctively get, to go for something bigger than anybody's ever done before, because it's literally what we're wired for. Isn't that cool? I think it's so cool, because now when I wake up and think, I want to be a trillionaire, I want to have a business bigger than Amazon, I want to do this or that, right? Now when I wake up and think those things, I get why I'm thinking them, okay? Because for the longest time, I thought I either was a person with delusions of grandeur, or I was a person who was just trying to be like all these coaches because I was so afraid I would fail. Even if I really thought I could do it, I thought I was just chasing a goal that I could never reach, right? That I was trying to be an imitation Tony Robbins, or an imitation Tim Ferriss, or an imitation something else. But now I realize that it's not delusions of grandeur. It doesn't mean that I am going to have a company that's worth more money than Amazon, right? I'm not likely to. But it's not impossible, and I must have some kind of vision for something bigger in some way than whatever the biggest person's done now. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job. And this doesn't mean you have to go be the biggest and best at everything. It means you choose, this is non-standard week on the podcast, you choose the non-standard thing about yourself, right? Maybe you have freakishly dexterous fingers, and so you're going to be the best underwater basket weaver in the world, right? Or maybe you have a freakish mind and you're going to be the best chess player in the world. Or maybe you have freakish toes and you're going to be the best rock climber in the world. Maybe you don't use your toes, maybe you need hands for rock climbing. But anyway, the point is, whatever is non-standard about you in an advanced way, you just leverage that to be better than anyone else before. And it doesn't mean I have to earn more than Tony Robbins or Jeff Bezos. It just means that in some way I have to advance my field in a way that's in aligned with my understanding that now I take all their stuff and get better, right? And so what I feel is really cool is a little bit meta is I actually just did this on this episode, right? Because I took Tim Ferriss's book, 4-Hour Workweek, and I said, yes, agree, this is amazing, right? No criticisms, I'm taking your wisdom, Tim, this is awesome. And since I'm younger and coming after him, I'm saying, wow, human thought is always incomplete. We're never going to complete understanding the world. And so I'm just going to advance it a little farther by adding the fact that, yes, the bigger stuff has less competition. Yes, the bigger stuff is more motivating. But in addition, the reason the bigger stuff is actually worth it, and Tim would know this, and he would agree with this if you asked him, is because the bigger stuff is in alignment with what actually excites your own mind and body and spirit in order to go do things. It's actually just the only option. And so the option is not, right? This is the thing I keep realizing. The option is not, how big do I want my goals to be? The option is, do I want to be sad and anxious and frustrated and conflicted forever because I'm not going for my true potential? Or do I want to go for my true potential and be happy forever regardless of what happens? That's the only decision you have to make, right? It's the only decision is, do you want to be happy? And happiness requires you to unleash your full potential. It's just natural. It's inside your body. You can't be fighting yourself. And man, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So that's Parable for today. Kind of a little architecture, a little Tim Ferriss, a little whatever. We're going to move right on into my self-reflection. So let me go ahead, stop this video, and I'll see you on the next one.